Welcome to Patriot League Football Media Day. I'm Gary Laubach, sitting alongside of Mike Joseph, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than sitting alongside of Mike Joseph. Mike in his 7th year as our football analyst par excellence. I don't think anybody could do a better job than Mike has done in those 7 years. And I know in August, Mike starts looking forward to football and the football season. He gets a little antsy around July, and he's ready to go in August. And Mike, as we look at the Lafayette football team, we certainly expect improvement this year with this team overall. So let's talk about where they will indeed improve.
Well, if you look at last year, obviously off of the record, I think they'll be a much better team. Last year was a little bit of an aberration, but this is a team that returns 2 senior quarterbacks, 2 guys that can both lead, both with different skill sets. But I think at any time of the game, I think you're going to see a Blake Searfoss as well as a Drew Reed. So I think from that standpoint, you have good leadership from the head down. And then you move into an offensive line, which returns a lot of guys, and some size and some athletic ability. And talking to Mickey Fine over the summer and some of the other offensive coaches, I think they're really excited about that offensive line. So Stan Clayton has a lot of tools to work with, which we haven't said in a long time. And then you look at wide receivers. You look at a guy like Matt Mrazek coming off the clavicle injury last year. He is set for a huge year, and you back him up with some excellent talent, some good freshmen coming in as well. So you got some good balance, and then you got a stable of running back. So offensively, and if we talked about it last year, you could actually return 11 starters on this offense if you really looked at it from a standpoint of who played, who has time under their belt. So 11 starters, I look at it as coming back offensively. And then on the defensive side of the football, you just have to question whether we can get to the quarterback. Matt Rothrock talked about it a little bit. Can we put pressure on? Can we help out a secondary that's got to be rebuilt a little bit? Although with a guy like Draylon James coming back, who missed all of last year with a foot injury, he's the type of kid that can do a lot of good things, and you have Brandon Bryant in the middle.
Certainly the special teams look really solid, so that's not even anything we tend to talk about right now because they look so good.
Yeah, and you look at a kicker like Jacob Bissell. I mean, that kid, and I looked at it over the summer, and I looked at a lot of different kickers and who's coming back. This kid could be the best kicker, not only in the Patriot League, but I think on the East Coast. I mean, he is phenomenal. The strength that he has, what he showed last year, a little bit more consistency is what he needs, but I think you're going to see that from Jacob this year. And then obviously from the punting standpoint as well. Lafayette is going to have good special teams all run by Coach McFadden, who did a phenomenal job last year.
We say this very often in athletics. You get better, but it doesn't show up on the record. This year our schedule is extremely tough. I don't think there's any question we're going to be better. Will we be better record-wise?
Well, 3 of the first 5 games at home, I think, is big. And then having that first Patriot League game against Holy Cross at home is another big deal. But, again, getting off to a good start, we say this every year, Central Connecticut is a team Lafayette should beat. I think it's a team, if they put together a good offensive plan and they get some good skills from there, and then defensively they need to play solid from the start, put pressure on the quarterback like we talked about. But when you talk about a Villanova and you talk about a Delaware and you talk about an Army, there is no letdown through this entire schedule. So give Frank and his staff, who have now been together for a long time, nobody's really left this staff from the core. You still got Mickey Fine, you still got Art Link, you got McFadden, you got Stan Clayton, Hallahan. I mean, you're talking about guys that have been with Frank a long, long time, and they know how to put a winner together.
No question about that. And as you look at the season, as it will progress, injuries last year, they were a killer. So many kids stayed back this year to work out. I think it was in the 70s of the number of kids that were here on campus. How much can that possibly help?
Well, I think it'll help a lot, the fact that they're going to get that camaraderie together, and now you're at that full complement. You're close to it. You know, Frank always talks about we're 55, 56, but that breeds competition. So when you have one scholarship athlete competing against another scholarship athlete, especially in positions where you look at a kid like Phil Parham, had a wonderful freshman year, needs to come back. Had a little down sophomore year, you can see he's chomping at the bit to come back and play hard. So that level of competition in the secondary, at the wide receiver position, at the tight end position with Dylan Wadsworth, those type of things that breed practice. Getting 75 to 80 kids on the field at one time, and look at 25 of those kids are freshmen. So 1/3 of your roster are going to be an incoming freshman class that is just loaded with talent.
And without mentioning names and putting pressure on some of those freshmen, we're getting a lot of good vibes about the freshman class.
I tell you what, they have some skill kids. We saw it February, second week of February, and I was so excited. You don't want to mention any names, but the skill sets, the ability of not only the wide receivers and the skill kids, but look at some of the defensive linemen they brought in, some of those offensive linemen they brought in, a huge tight end that's just a massive, massive athlete. They are going to be loaded, and it's going to give a guy like Stan Clayton, we talked about this earlier, to Stan have enough playbooks to hand out now, which has not been it in the past. So, Stan's a guy I think is really going to benefit from having 12 to 15 guys. Lining up 3 deep at the 4 deep at the offensive line position is huge when you talk about reps. And then from the defensive line position, you add a lot of skill on the outside. You get a guy like Dante Leonardo back from Bethlehem Catholic, who really missed all of last year with a knee injury. They're expecting big things had him in. Michael Root coming off of an injury as well. So defensively, there's going to be a lot of competition. To answer your question, when you can breed that competition in practice, it can relate right to the field of play.
And, of course, we want to relate to that field of play as soon as we can. We will not be doing the Central Connecticut State game, so just a little warning about that. It will not be on the Lafayette Sports Network. Central Connecticut State responsible for that. We will not be doing the Army game. We will not be doing the Fordham game. So as you adjust your schedule and your viewing schedule, Mike and I will not be part of those games. You have looked at Calm Mike. He will only get more emotional as we get closer to September. For Mike Joseph, I'm Gary Laubach on GoLeopards.com.